My name is Riley Camden, and I'm 32 years old.
If you'd asked me a year ago to describe my life, I would have called it steady. Boringly steady, in the soft, comforting way I always thought adulthood was supposed to feel. I like systems, structure, things that add up the same way every time. I built my world out of routines. The dishwasher set to run at 12:01 a.m. for off-peak rates, the color-coded envelopes in my filing drawer, my budget spreadsheet that has never, not once, been late to reconciling itself. 6 years ago, at 26, I bought a small fixer-upper on the east side of town. 3 bedrooms, 1 bath that barely passed inspection, sagging front steps, and a kitchen backsplash that looked like it had survived the 1980s out of spite. I spent every evening and weekend sanding floors, repainting walls, replacing cabinets one bruised fingertip at a time. I ate cheap, drove a 15-year-old car, and treated every paycheck like I was on the last season of a survival show. 2 years ago, I made the final mortgage payment. The house isn't fancy, but it's mine. Every nail, every late night, every splinter in my palms. Owning it outright is the proudest thing I've ever done. And then there was Logan Myers. I met him at a friend's engagement party, one of those events where everyone is pretending not to size each other up. He was handsome, funny, in that effortless way people practice in the mirror, and he smiled like he'd already been forgiven for things he hadn't confessed yet. We clicked fast. Too fast, maybe, but I didn't see it then. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. Nothing dramatic, no flash mob, no drone shots, no hidden photographer. Just him on my back deck at sunset, sliding a ring box across the table like he was making a quiet offer. I said yes. We'd been engaged 4 months when everything cracked. It started 3 weeks ago. We were in my kitchen, the scent of garlic and butter floating up from the pan on the stove. Logan leaned against the counter, swirling a glass of wine he hadn't earned after a day spent brainstorming his next career pivot, which was his way of saying he'd spent the afternoon on YouTube. My sister was talking about prenups, he said casually, not looking at me. She thinks it's smart if we get one. Protect both of us. Make things clear. I didn't flinch. Honestly, the suggestion relieved me. I had the house. He had debt, about $60,000 from what he called his investment period, which included a failed online boutique he supposedly backed and unfortunate financial choices in his mid-20s. I knew about the debt when we got engaged. He'd been upfront, said he was paying it down. I respected that honesty. I think that's reasonable, I told him. We should each get our own lawyer, keep everything clean. He hesitated for a fraction of a second, barely a twitch in his jaw, but I caught it. Actually, he said, my sister's friend is a lawyer. He said he could draw something up for us cheap. No point in spending money when we can save some. That was the first red flag. A small one, like a corner of a sticky note peeking out from under a stack of papers. I ignored it. As long as it's fair, I said, I don't care who drafts it. He smiled like he'd passed a test I didn't know we were taking. Last Tuesday, he arrived at my house holding a manila folder like it contained our future in tidy, printed paragraphs. We should go over it tonight, he said, setting it on the dining table. I wiped my hands on a kitchen towel and sat across from him. The folder was warm from his grip. Inside was a stack of printed pages, dense legal text, bold headings, the kind of document that pretends to be objective while quietly reshaping someone's life. I began reading. The first page was standard, our full names, the date, boilerplate phrasing about marriage and assets. The second page hit like a punch. According to the prenup, my house, my fully paid-off home, would become marital property immediately after the wedding. If we ever divorced, it would be sold, and the proceeds split evenly. My fingers tightened on the page. I kept reading. Logan's $60,000 debt would also become marital debt, shared equally. And if he defaulted, I would be responsible for covering it. I blinked, reread the section, read it again. My heartbeat climbed into my throat. This can't be right, I said quietly. Logan leaned back in his chair, pretending to look relaxed. It's the prenup. Just sign it, and we're good. I rotated the pages toward him and tapped the offending lines. This says my house becomes joint property the minute we're married. He shrugged. Well, yeah, I'll be living there. I should have ownership. And this says your debt becomes our debt. Marriage is about sharing everything, he said, like it was a rehearsed line. Except this isn't sharing, I replied steady. This is me giving you half my house and taking on your debt. His jaw tightened. You're acting like I'm trying to rob you. I held up the packet. Logan, you are. He slammed his hand on the table, making the forks rattle. My sister's friend said it's standard. Then your sister's friend is either incompetent, I said quietly, or he drafted this to screw me over. His face flushed red. We don't have time for this. The wedding is in 3 months. Then we push the wedding, I said. This document is unacceptable. He stood abruptly, grabbing the folder. You're being ridiculous. You're choosing your house over me. I'm choosing fairness, I said. If you loved me, you wouldn't hand me this. His voice sharpened. Maybe we should call off the whole wedding. The room felt unnaturally still. The simmering pan behind me, whispering like it was afraid to interrupt. Maybe we should, I said. He froze, staring at me like I'd spoken in another language. What? You heard me. You're really doing this? Over a stupid piece of paper? It's not stupid, I said. It defines how you see our future, and I won't sign something designed to strip me of what I've earned. He grabbed his keys. Call me when you're ready to be reasonable. The door slammed with a sound that echoed through the house long after he left. For a moment, I just stood there, listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator. Then I sat down, opened the folder again, and read every word like it was code I needed to debug. It was worse on the second pass. Alimony clauses that made no sense. Terms that shifted everything I owned into shared property while leaving none of his debt as solely his. A section that implied he could force the sale of the house. This wasn't a prenup. It was a trap. My hands shook, not with fear, but with something colder. Recognition. I pulled out my phone and opened my contacts. Daniel Price, a law school friend turned family lawyer. I snapped photos of the pages and texted them to him. Can you look at this? Logan wants me to sign it. The typing bubbles appeared almost instantly. Then they vanished. Then appeared again. My heart was beating too loud for the quiet kitchen. The typing bubbles appeared. Disappeared. Came back. Then Daniel called instead. I answered on the first ring. Please tell me I'm overreacting, I said before he could speak. I wish I could, he replied. But I've read it twice, and Riley, this thing is insane. The way he said it, flat, professional, no humor, made my stomach drop. In what way? My voice came out thinner than I intended. In the if you sign this, you're volunteering to be legally mugged way, he said. Papers rustled on his end. Your house becomes marital property immediately. His premarital debt becomes shared. Alimony clauses are slanted heavily in his favor, and there are provisions that give him leverage to force the sale of the house later. This isn't a prenup. It's a transfer of wealth plan with wedding decorations. I stared at the pages spread across my table. So, I'm not being dramatic. You're being too kind, he said. You cannot sign this. Not in any universe where you like having a roof. A laugh escaped me, sharp and humorless. He said his sister's friend wrote it, that it's standard. Then his sister's friend is either terrifyingly bad at their job, Daniel said, or they wrote this specifically to favor Logan. Honestly, my bet's on door number 2. I pressed my thumb into the corner of one page until the paper dented. What do I do? We draft a real prenup, he said simply. One that keeps your house separate property, keeps his debt his, and lays out fair terms for both of you. If he genuinely wants something fair, he'll sign it. And if he doesn't, then you've got your answer about what this engagement is really about. Silence stretched between us for a moment. I can put something together by next week, he added. I'll email you a draft. Don't sign anything he gives you. Don't let him pressure you on a timeline. Okay, I said, thank you. After we hung up, I sat at the table with the so-called prenup spread out like a crime scene. The words blurred. My house, the chipped baseboards, the squeaky step on the stairs, the wall in the hallway where I'd accidentally splashed blue paint and decided I liked it, felt suddenly fragile, like someone had slipped a hand under the foundation and given it a testing shake. I snapped a photo of the folder and texted Logan. I had a lawyer friend review the prenup. It's extremely one-sided and unfair. I'm not signing it. He's going to draft a fair agreement for both of us. We can review it together next week. The message turned delivered and sat there. 10 minutes, 20, an hour. No response. By the time I went to bed, my phone was still silent on the nightstand, screen black, like it was deliberately refusing to light up. The next morning at work, my day was a blur of delayed shipments and a driver who'd taken the wrong interstate and ended up 2 states over. Normally, I like days like that, problems with clear inputs and outputs. But every time I resolved one crisis, my mind slid back to the unresolved one wearing a ring. Logan finally texted around noon. Your lawyer? I thought we were using mine. This is getting blown way out of proportion. I stared at the message, the word mine sticking out like a splinter. Your lawyer wrote a document that gives you half my house and half your debt, I replied. That's not a prenup, that's a con. We need something fair. Response came fast this time. Fair would be you trusting me and not trying to control everything. My sister's friend said it's standard. You're making a big deal out of nothing. My hands shook with that particular mix of anger and clarity that only shows up once a line has been crossed.
Protecting what I've earned is not controlling everything, I wrote. If you can't handle a fair prenup, maybe we need to rethink this. He didn't answer. Not by text, anyway. He called that evening.
You've been ignoring me all day, he snapped when I picked up. I was working, I said. You know, that thing that pays the mortgage you're trying to sign yourself onto.
That's not fair, he said. You're twisting everything.
I'm reading, I said flatly. There's nothing to twist. My house becomes marital property. Your 60 grand becomes marital debt. Explain to me how that's balanced. It's called marriage, Riley, he said. What's yours is mine, and what's mine is yours. Except your debt is somehow the only thing you own, I shot back. And my house is the only big asset I own. I'm sure that's just a coincidence. He was breathing hard into the phone, like he'd just finished running but hadn't gone anywhere. You're sabotaging our wedding, he said finally. This is what my sister meant. You care more about your stupid house than you do about us. The words landed, but they didn't land the way he wanted. A few months ago, they might have made me question myself. Now they just sounded like a script. I care about not being trapped in a legally sanctioned financial blender, I said. My lawyer is drafting a new prenup. If you want to marry me, you'll sign something that doesn't treat me like an ATM with emotional labor. A beat of silence. Then his voice dropped into something cold and precise. You have until Sunday to sign the prenup I gave you, he said. If you don't, we're done. Wedding's off. Everything's off. For a second, the old reflex kicked in, the one that made me want to smooth things over, fix it, apologize for making waves in his calm. Then something else rose up instead, something quieter, stronger. Relief. I actually laughed, not hysterically, just a small, disbelieving sound. Being done, I said, sounds perfect. You don't mean that, he said quickly. You're just mad. No, I said, I'm finally not confused.
Riley!
I'm not signing your prenup, Logan, I said. Ever. So if that's the condition for us getting married, then I guess we're not getting married.
He went silent long enough that I wondered if the call had dropped.
Then he hissed, You're going to regret this, and hung up. My hand trembled as I set the phone down on the table, not from fear, from adrenaline. A few minutes later, I called Daniel back and told him everything. He gave you an ultimatum, Daniel asked, over that document? Sign it by Sunday or we're done, I repeated. So, I guess we're done. Riley, he said slowly, I know this sucks, but I'm going to say something you're not ready to hear. What? You are dodging a bullet the size of your whole future. I exhaled, something tight in my chest loosening a fraction. That's what it feels like, a really expensive bullet. He was quiet for a moment. I could almost hear him thinking. Let me ask you something, he said. Have you ever really looked at his finances? Like, actually looked? Not really, I admitted. He told me about the 60 grand and that he was paying it down. I trusted that. 60,000 from a failed online boutique is a lot, Daniel said. I've seen real boutique debt. It looks different. There's inventory, vendor contracts, business accounts. His story feels light on details. I thought about the way Logan always changed the subject when I asked specifics, about his vague references to bad partners and marketing experiments. What are you saying? I asked. I'm saying if it were me, Daniel replied, I'd dig. Social media, old posts, whatever you can find. People who play games with money usually leave fingerprints. After we hung up, I sat there with my phone in my hand, thumb hovering over Logan's name, then sliding past it. I opened Instagram instead. Logan's page was mostly presentable now. Gym selfies, dog photos, the occasional motivational quote reposted from someone more successful. But 3 years back, buried under rebrands and deleted posts, the cracks started to show. He wasn't alone in most of the old photos. A woman appeared over and over again, dark hair, easy smile, arm looped through his. Restaurant tables, vacations, nights out. In one photo, she was kissing his cheek, and the caption read, Best boyfriend ever. Thanks for everything, babe. The timestamp was right in the period he'd claimed he was single and rebuilding. I clicked her handle, @TessaWard. Her page was mostly quiet now. More recent posts about running, coffee, a new apartment. But if you scrolled far enough down, the smiling couple photos began, then ended. The captions shifted from soft to brittle. One post stopped me cold. It was a photo of her credit card statement laid out on a kitchen counter, numbers blurred, but balances clearly not. The caption read, Learn from my mistakes. Don't let someone treat you like a wallet with feelings. maxed out cards, business ideas that were really vacations and bottle service? Never again. The comments were full of sympathetic messages and one name that made my heart slam against my ribs. Logan. He'd replied back then, "This is so unfair. You know that's not what happened." Underneath that, Tess had written, "I know exactly what happened. You used me until the card stopped working." I scrolled through a few more posts. A photo of an empty closet with the caption, "Starting from scratch, but at least everything in here will be mine." Another of a tiny studio apartment. Square footage, small. Peace, enormous. My fingers went cold. I opened my banking app and went through my own recent history. Little things I'd brushed off. Paying for most of the groceries since he was catching up on his debt. Covering an overdue utility bill he'd forgotten. Picking up extra dinners out because he'd get the next one. One more pattern. One more set of fingerprints. I texted Daniel. "I think you're right. Found his ex's posts. She says he maxed out her cards and used her for money. Timeline matches when his boutique debt started." He called within seconds. "Riley," he said, "he's running the same playbook with you." I looked around my dining room. The table I'd refinished myself, the chairs I'd bought secondhand and recovered in fabric I couldn't really afford at the time, the chipped edge of the wall where I'd misjudged the vacuum. My house, my life. Not a prize in someone else's scam. "What do we do?" I asked. "We put it in writing," he said. "I'll draft a letter, lay out what you found, state clearly that you won't be signing anything, and that any further attempts to pressure you or come after your property will be treated as harassment or worse." "He's going to lose it," I murmured. "Probably," Daniel agreed, "but I'd bet money on this. Once he realizes you've seen the pattern, he'll try to pivot from aggression to guilt. They always do." "Guilt won't work this time," I said, surprising myself with how certain I sounded. "Good," he said, "because I don't think he's done with you yet." I glanced toward the front door, listening to the quiet house. "For now," I said softly, "I'm done with him." Daniel wasn't wrong. By Saturday morning, Logan was already trying to pry his way back into my life. It started with texts, timid, wounded ones, that didn't match the man who'd slammed the door 2 nights earlier. "Can we talk?" "I'm sorry," I yelled. "My sister said you're overreacting, but maybe we can compromise. I love you, Riley." The words felt pulled from a script written by someone who'd skimmed the concept of accountability, but never practiced it. I didn't answer. By noon, the tone shifted. "I don't understand why you're doing this. You're choosing a house over your relationship. Why won't you just sign the prenup? It's not a big deal." I put my phone face down on the table and walked away. Every message felt like someone tapping on a bruise. Around 7 p.m., I heard a familiar sound. His car easing into my driveway. Logan's footsteps on my front porch. Then the doorbell. Once, twice, then pounding. "Riley!" he shouted. "Open the door! We're not doing this like children!" I didn't move. My heart thudded in my chest. Not fear. Anger. The kind that builds, steady and hot, when someone who has taken advantage of your patience starts demanding more. "Riley, I can see your car. I know you're home." My phone buzzed relentlessly. Finally, I walked to the window, quietly, and looked through the side of the curtains. He was pacing on the porch, messy hair, flushed face, phone in hand. "Open the door or I'm calling the cops and telling them you won't return my stuff." Stuff. He had maybe 2 outfits and a toothbrush in my house. The rest had slowly, but somehow conveniently, never made the move. I texted him back. "Your things are in a bag on the porch. Take them and leave." He stopped, looked at his phone, looked at the black garbage bag next to the steps, then back at the door. "This isn't all of it," he shouted. I typed, "You didn't leave anything else here. Take what's yours. Leave." He pounded on the door again. "Where's my watch? My jewelry? My charger?" "You never left jewelry here," I texted. "The rest is there." "If you don't open this door," he snapped, "I'm coming back with the police." "Then I'll show them the bag of everything you own that was here," I texted back, "and the messages where you admit you don't actually live here." He froze. For a moment, I saw something flicker across his face. Not guilt, calculation. Then he grabbed the bag, stomped down the steps, and left. When his car disappeared down the street, the house fell quiet. I leaned against the wall and slid down until I was sitting on the floor, knees pulled up, my hands shook. Not because he'd scared me, because I realized I wasn't scared of him anymore. The phone rang an hour later. Not Logan. His sister, Brielle. I almost didn't answer, but I did. The second I said hello, she started. "You need to stop being such a jerk to my brother." "Good evening to you too, Brielle," I said calmly. "He came home crying," she shouted. "You broke his heart." I almost laughed. Logan cried? For who? For his reflection?
I didn't break anything, I said. Your brother brought me a predatory contract and demanded I sign away my house and take his debt. That's marriage, Riley. Women have done that for years. That's exploitation, I corrected, and I'm not doing it. You're being selfish, she spat. He deserves security. He's giving up everything to marry you. What exactly is he giving up? I asked. He doesn't own property. He doesn't have savings. He has debt he refuses to take responsibility for. That debt wasn't his fault, she snapped. His ex ruined him. Funny, I said. She posted about him maxing out her cards and leaving her broke. Silence. You don't know what you're talking about, Brielle said, but her voice trembled. Don't I? I asked quietly. Because the timeline matches, and this prenup was designed to repeat the same pattern with me. She inhaled sharply. You're twisting things. No, I said. I'm finally seeing things clearly. You can't just end things like this. You owe him a conversation. You owe him closure. I owe him nothing, I said. Tell your brother not to contact me again. I hung up before she could reply. And the moment I did, my phone buzzed with an email notification. From Daniel Price. Subject, draft letter. Logan Myers. I opened the attachment. It was perfect. Professional, calm, emotionless in the way that's far scarier than shouting. It stated, in clean legal language, every point. The prenup was coercive and financially predatory. Logan had attempted to manipulate shared assets. Riley would not sign any version drafted by his associate. Any further harassment, digital or in person, would trigger legal action. Riley's home was solely her separate property. I felt something loosen in my chest as I read it. My boundaries written in ink. Sunday morning, I scheduled a courier. At noon, I got the confirmation email. Delivered. Signed for by L. Myers. My phone rang 17 minutes later. I didn't want to answer, but I did. Logan's voice came through the line, thick and uneven, like he'd practiced crying but hadn't perfected the technique. How could you send me that? He choked out. How could you hand me that prenup? I replied. It wasn't stealing, he shouted. I love you, Riley. You love what I have, I corrected softly. There's a difference. That's not fair, he said. You don't understand everything. Then explain the debt, I said. Explain the boutique that never existed. Explain the ex who said the same things I'm living now. Explain why your contract gave me liabilities and gave you assets. Silence. Thick, heavy silence. Logan, I said finally, we're done. No, wait, please. I hung up. Then I blocked his number. Then I blocked his sister. Then I blocked everyone connected to him. And the house, my house, felt quiet again. Quiet in a way that wasn't empty. Quiet in a way that felt like safety. 4 hours later, Daniel called. You won't believe this, he said. What now? He called my office, tried to explain his side, asked if there was any way to reverse your decision. I closed my eyes. What did you tell him? Exactly what needed to be said. That I represent you, not him, and he needs to stop contacting you or anyone connected to you. I exhaled. He's backed off for now, Daniel said, but I'd still keep your doors locked. I already changed the locks on Friday, I said, and installed a door camera. He laughed under his breath. Then you're ahead of me. That night I slept deeply, maybe for the first time in months. 6 weeks passed. 6 weeks of silence. 6 weeks of breathing room I didn't realize I'd been craving. 6 weeks of waking up in my house, my fully paid, fully earned house, without the shadow of someone else's choices creeping across the floorboards. Logan hadn't contacted me again after the letter. No calls, no text, no drive-by appearances. His sister had gone quiet too. Mutual friends said he'd packed up and left the state. Started fresh. I didn't ask where. My life began to feel mine again. The grocery bills dropped back to normal. The electric bill shrank by nearly a third. My dishwasher returned to being loaded properly instead of the chaotic Tetris he always played. My evenings were calm, quiet meals, my budget spreadsheet open next to a warm cup of tea, the house humming around me like it was grateful to have its equilibrium back. Some nights, though, I caught myself replaying small moments, red flags I'd filed under quirks instead of warnings. The way Logan never really answered questions about his debt, how he deflected with humor whenever money came up, the subtle shift in his tone when he talked about our future, and it always involved my stability and his benefit. But the biggest red flag? How natural it had felt, for him, to turn everything into something I should apologize for. I recognized the pattern now. And now that I'd seen it, I'd never unsee it again. 2 weeks into my emotional recovery, I went to the hardware store down the street. Just a quick run for sandpaper and a new brush. I decided to repaint the hallway, cover the faded blue splash that I once thought charming, but now read as a reminder of who I used to be.
I wasn't expecting to run into anyone. I certainly wasn't expecting him. I turned a corner into the paint aisle and froze. A man stood there flipping through paint samples, tall, athletic build, dark hair. Something about him tugged at my memory. It took me a second to place him. Then it hit me like a quiet punch. The ex. The one from Tess Ward's old photos. The one Logan had financially drained before me. The one whose credit card statements she'd posted in warning. He noticed me staring and gave a polite, cautious smile. Can I help you find something?" he asked. "This is going to sound strange," I said, gripping the cart, "but I think we used to date the same person." His expression changed instantly, recognition flooding in. "Oh," he exhaled, "you're Riley." I blinked. "You know my name?" He nodded. "Logan mentioned you once. I didn't know he got engaged, but I'm not surprised." "We were engaged," I corrected softly. "Not anymore." A humorless laugh escaped him. "Good." We stood there between paint swatches, two people who'd lived through the same storm separately. "He ran up almost 60 grand on my cards," he said without prompting. "Told me it was for inventory and ads for that stupid boutique idea. But the purchases were restaurants, hotels, trips, clubs. By the time I figured it out, he'd already opened one card in my name." My stomach twisted. "Did he pay any of it back?" "No." He shook his head. "I filed a police report. He vanished before it went anywhere." I swallowed. He tried to do the same thing to me, except through a prenup. His jaw tightened. What did he try? I told him. The house. The debt. The terms that would have legally tied me to his past decisions forever. When I finished, he let out a low breath. "Same playbook," he said. "Different victim." I looked down at my hands. I feel stupid for not seeing it sooner. "Don't," he said firmly. "People like him don't choose stupid people. They choose generous people. Trusting people, women who have their lives together, because that's what they want access to." His words landed somewhere deep inside me, somewhere still tender. We talked for a few more minutes, exchanged numbers, in case either of us ever needed statements or proof. Before he left, he said something that stuck with me. "You didn't lose anything," he said. "You escaped everything." He was right. And the strangest part? In the weeks that followed, I didn't just feel relieved. I felt lighter. I kept repainting the hallway, not to cover the old paint, but to mark a new season. I settled into my routines again, paid my bills, took deep breaths in my quiet living room, filled the house with the scent of fresh lemon cleaner and something like peace. I went on a few casual dates, nothing serious. I wasn't in a hurry. I wasn't afraid of love. I was just unwilling, finally, to mistake chaos for connection. Some people ask if I regret saying yes to Logan in the first place, if I regret the 2 years, the time invested, the plans made, the future imagined. Honestly, no, I don't regret trying. I regret not seeing the pattern earlier. I regret giving someone access to my stability without making sure he brought his own. I regret ignoring the little voice in my head that whispered, "This feels off." But regret isn't the weight it used to be. It's ballast now, steadying me rather than sinking me. These days, I think of my house the way I think of my life. Quiet, solid mine. And when I lock the door at night, I don't wonder who might try to take that from me. I already faced him, and I walked away.